So here's something interesting. When you stand on the edge of Riverside View in Fourways, you can see something quite remarkable start to unfold. Where once there may have been empty land or informal settlements, today there's a bustling community that will reach 10,000 residential units that will take shape right here. Now, this isn't just another housing project. I feel that it's a statement about South Africa's determination to undo decades of spatial apartheid. And it starts here, one brick at a time. I want to start with the scale here, because the numbers here are genuinely mind-blowing. Riverside View will comprise of 10,000 residential units spread across multiple phases, making it one of Johannesburg's largest integrated housing developments. To put that in perspective, that's housing for potentially 40 to 50,000 people, roughly the size of a small city or half the size of where I come from or where I was raised at Bonge. The financial commitment is equally pretty impressive. By 2025, the city of Johannesburg would have invested over 116 million rand just in phase 3 alone, while phase 4 will require 53 million rand from the city and approximately 291 million from the Social Housing Regulatory Authority. When you add up all of these phases, including all of the private development components, you're looking at investments well over 500 million rand, $500 million. This amount isn't pocket change. It's a serious commitment to addressing South Africa's urgent housing crisis. But to understand why Riverside View matters, we need to talk about what came before. Now, apartheid spatial planning wasn't just about keeping people apart. It was a deliberate system that was designed to control every aspect of where people live, where they work, and also the services that they can access. The Group Areas Act of 1950 carved up cities like Johannesburg into racial zones, forcing millions of people, primarily Black South Africans, into townships far from the economic opportunities and other services. The result was a fragmented urban landscape that still defines Johannesburg until this day. Townships were deliberately placed on the periphery, on the outside, with poor infrastructure and very limited services, while white areas enjoyed proximity to jobs, schools, amenities, and everything else. Now, what this did is that it created what urban planners call the apartheid city, a place where your race determined not just where you lived, but your entire life's chances. Even today, 30 years into democracy, these spatial patterns still matter and they still persist. People still travel hours from townships to work in the city centers or in wealthy suburbs. The legacy of apartheid spatial planning means where you're born in Johannesburg still largely determines your access to opportunities. Now, this is where places like Riverside View become very significant. Located strategically north of Steyn City and west of Riversands along Winnie Mandela Drive, it's positioned to break some of these old patterns, or at least start to. Instead of pushing affordable housing to the margins, Riverside View sits in Fourways, one of Johannesburg's key economic nodes. And what's really great here is that the development is remarkable in its integration. Rather than building only RDP houses or only middle-class homes, Riverside View combines multiple housing types: first home finance subsidy program units, rental units, multi-story sectional title properties, and fully subsidized housing. This mixed income approach means teachers, security guards, office workers, nurses, and unemployed families can all live in the same neighborhood, something that would have been impossible under apartheid. Raubeck's building completion of 480 units between 2016 and 2017 marked a significant milestone here. These were the first 4-story RDP buildings in Johannesburg, setting a new standard for high-density, affordable housing. Each unit includes 2 bedrooms, an open-plan kitchen and living area, and also modern amenities like individual water meters and even solar geysers. The quality, according to project managers like Jacques Vermaak, is that they see it as being comparable to rental units, which is a significant upgrade from many traditional RDP houses. The social housing component represents perhaps the most innovative aspect of Riverside View. This isn't about giving away houses. It's actually about creating sustainable rental communities for people who are earning between 3,500 Rand and 22,000 Rand per month, often called the missing middle in South African housing policy terms. The numbers here tell their own story. Phase 3 alone comprises of 184 rental units, with monthly rentals ranging from 1,200 Rand for bachelor units to 2,500 Rand for 2-bedroom apartments. When Phase 4 is complete, it will add another 744 units. For context, Josh Co received over 30,000 applications for just 184 units in Phase 3. That's a demand ratio of more than 160:1, which highlights the desperate need for this type of housing. These aren't basic shelters as well. Units come with modern kitchens, 24-hour CCTV surveillance, biometric access control, energy-efficient solar geysers, water meters, prepaid electricity, and rainwater harvesting systems. It's social housing, but it's designed to offer dignity and modern living standards. The ever-evolving story of Riverside View also illuminates how government approaches to housing have evolved. Initially, post-apartheid housing policy focused heavily on home ownership through the RDP housing program. While this addressed the immediate shelter needs, it didn't always create sustainable communities or address the apartheid spatial planning legacy. The 1 month, 1 building campaign that launched Riverside's View early phases in 2023 also represents a new urgency in government's thinking. Rather than scattered, small-scale projects, the focus has shifted towards mega developments that can make a real dent in housing backlogs while also creating integrated communities. MMC Mlungiso Mabaso's comments during the Phase 4 launch captured this evolution quite succinctly. We're pushing this program because we've identified the need to construct more rental units in Johannesburg for those who do not qualify for RDP houses. This is an acknowledgement that home ownership isn't the only solution and that quality rental housing can also be transformative. The partnership model is also pretty significant. Rather than government doing it alone, Riverside View involves private developers like ValueMax, construction companies like Raubex, and even specialized agencies like Joshco. This public-private collaboration allows for larger scale, higher quality, and more sustainable financing to make sure that these projects start and ultimately finish. But I want you to also understand that Riverside View doesn't exist in isolation. It's part of a broader transformation across Gauteng, where over 1.1 million new housing opportunities have been created since 1994, comprising of 341,000 service sites and 793,000 housing units. Now, alongside mega projects like Clayville, Fleurhof, Savannah City, and others, Riverside View represents the new generation of spatial planning that actively works against apartheid's legacy. These developments are deliberately positioned to create what planners call spatial justice, ensuring that previously disadvantaged communities have access to well-located, integrated housing. When you consider that Gauteng is home to over 15 million people and continues to attract migrants seeking economic opportunities from all parts of the country, the scale of this challenge becomes very clear. Going further to that and looking at Riverside View's true impact, you need to look at what housing actually costs in the area today. The private market tells a compelling story about the development success and the broader housing challenges that are facing Johannesburg. For those looking to buy entry-level properties, those started around 550,000 Rand for 2-bedroom apartments in developments like Eagle's Riverside View, which is just over there. 3-bedroom houses range from 900,000 to 1.8 million Rand, depending on the size and the finishes. These aren't luxury finishes by Johannesburg standards, but they're well beyond what most families earning 3,500 Rand to 22,000 Rand per month can afford through traditional bank financing. The rental market is also equally revealing. 2-bedroom apartments rent from 5,550 Rand per month, while 3-bedroom houses can command 7,000 Rand in rent every single month. Even a basic 1-bedroom unit costs 4,000 to 5,000 Rand per unit. For context, someone earning 15,000 Rand monthly would need to spend nearly half of their income just to rent for a 2-bedroom apartment, which is well above the recommended 30% housing to income ratio. Now, this is where government intervention becomes crucial. The First Home Finance Program, formerly known as FLISP, represents a critical bridge for what officials call the gap market. People who earn too much for free RDP housing, but too little for bank financing. As Minister Mamabolo Kubai explains, there's a significant gap in the market. You've got to have an income of 27,000 Rand a month as a household, and above that, you've got to be able to qualify for a home loan, whereas in government, you need to earn less than 3,500 Rand to qualify for a free house. This program works by providing government grants that enable banks to offer loans to households that earn up to 22,000 Rand monthly. It's not free housing in the sense, but recipients still pay monthly bond repayments. But the government subsidies make home ownership possible for people who would otherwise be shut out of the property market almost entirely. Now, in Riverside View's case, those 2,900 plus FLISP units present nearly 3,000 families who can now access home ownership in well-located integrated communities like this one. This model is particularly significant in the case of Riverside View's location, as Kubai also notes that the development strategic positioning, next to it, you're not very far You've got places like a Steyn City. You've got upmarket developments that are privately owned. Just also when you look from here, a stone's throw away, you have this development. That's one of the issues that we talk about when we say that there is a need to close apartheid spatial planning, where you have the rich too far away from the people who are the middle class and below. Proximity matters because it means that FLISP beneficiaries aren't just getting homes, they're getting access to economic nodes with jobs, schools, and services. I mean, just down here, you've got one of the Curo schools. Now, instead of spending hours and significant portions of their income on transport from distant townships, they can live near where they work or where opportunities actually exist. But of course, no development is perfect, and Riverside View faces challenges, real challenges. MMC Mabaso himself acknowledges issues of vandalism, funding constraints, and the project sometimes delaying. The demand for units far exceeds the supply here. Those 30,000 applications for 184 units represent thousands of families still waiting for affordable housing. The rental model, while it is innovative, also presents challenges. Unlike RDP home ownership, rental requires ongoing economic stability. Economic shocks like those that were experienced during COVID-19 lockdowns, they can make it difficult for families to maintain their rental payments, potentially leading to evictions and also housing instability. There's also the question of supporting infrastructure and services. While Riverside View includes schools, retail centers, there's one just there, and community facilities, the broader Fourways area needs continued investment in things like public transport, healthcare, and other services that can truly support a population that's growing exponentially, a population of this size. Perhaps most importantly, developments like Riverside's View, while transformative, represent just a small fraction of South Africa's real housing needs. The National Development Plan, the NDP, estimates that the country needs to build 2.1 million additional housing units by 2030, meaning we need many more Riverside Views to truly address spatial inequality. But despite these challenges, a place like Riverside View represents something genuinely hopeful in South Africa's urban story. It shows that it's possible to build large-scale quality housing that brings different income groups together in well-located areas. It also starts to demonstrate that government, private sector, and communities can collaborate effectively on complex urban challenges. Most importantly, it offers a glimpse of what post-apartheid cities or nodes could start to look like: integrated, inclusive, and highly accessible. When you walk through Riverside View today, you see families who might otherwise be living in overcrowded spaces, backyard rooms, or paying excessive amounts of rent for poor quality accommodation or accommodation that would be out of their means. Even places like the inner city, those aren't that great anymore. Instead, they have modern homes in communities that are designed for long-term sustainability. The story of Riverside View is ultimately about writing Johannesburg's spatial narrative, one unit, one family, one community at a time. It's not perfect, we know that, and it's not complete, but it's a start towards the kind of city that serves all of its residents, regardless of their economic circumstances or racial backgrounds. In a country that's still grappling with the spatial legacy of apartheid, that's no small achievement. And with over 10,000 units that are planned and will be completed here, Riverside View isn't just about housing people, it's about housing possibility itself. Thank you for watching this video right up until this point. I hope that it was just as interesting for you to watch as it was for us to make for you. Check out one of these other videos and hopefully they'll be just as interesting as this one. Cheers.